Pozdrav svima, ja sam Đorđe i dobrodošli na kanal Lične financije. Pre neke 2 nedelje je održana godišnja skupština akcionara kompanije Berkshire Hathaway. Da je ova kompanija kao bilo koja druga kompanija na svetu, ova vest bi bila interesantna samo akcionarima te kompanije. Međutim, s obzirom da se ovde radi o Berkshireu, ovo je jedinstvena prilika da uživo čujemo Warrena Buffetta i Charliea Mungera i malo prodiskutujemo o njihovim trenutnim mišljenjima i stavovima. Tako da, hajde da vidimo šta su oni rekli na godišnjoj konferenciji. Godišnja skupština akcionara kompanije Berkshire Hathaway se obično sastoji iz 2 dela. Prvi deo su prezentacije rezultata i njihovo komentarisanje i drugi deo su pitanja i odgovori prisutnih akcionara i prisutnih medija uglavnom. Ono što je generalno interesantno za mene makar, jeste ovaj drugi deo sa pitanjima i odgovorima, s obzirom da tu Buffett i Munger dele svoje stavove i mišljenja i mislim da ove informacije mogu pomoći nama kao generalno investitorima, početnicima, da nekako formiramo svoje stavove i da generalno učimo iz njihovog iskustva. Što bi rekao Milan Strongman, Warren Buffett je stariji od vatru, tako da sigurno je da ima skoro 100-godišnje iskustvo trgovanja na berzi i red je da mi učimo od njega potpuno besplatno. Tako da, ova cela skupština akcionara je trajala skoro 6 sati, to jest nešto više od 6 sati, i ja neću danas prolaziti kroz celu skupštinu, već sam izdvojio neke segmente koje mislim da će nam biti interesantni. Tako da ne dužim mnogo, hajde da pređemo na prvi segment, s obzirom da se inflacija dosta spominje tokom poslednjih par meseci, red je da počnemo sa ovom temom.
Yeah, and of course, bonds can swindle the equity investor too. Everything, inflation, I should say, swindles the bond investor too, and it swindles the person who keeps their cash under their mattress. It swindles almost everybody, and the problem, if you have a business that doesn't take any capital, and let's just say the dollar depreciates 90% or something, so things cost 10 times as much. If it doesn't take any capital, you can charge 10 times as much, and you've kept your relative position. But most businesses take some capital. If our utility business, just say that the dollar is worth 1/10 some years hence from now, we have to have 10 times the capital investment, basically. And we get paid a return on that. But we have forced capital investment to essentially keep them in the same place.
Možda je zvučalo malo komplikovanije zbog konteksta cele priče, ali ono što mislim da Buffett želi da kaže jeste da treba da budemo investirani, odnosno da pokušavamo da bežimo iz oblika gotovine, koliko god je to moguće naravno. Međutim, ukoliko on zaista ovo misli, može se postaviti pitanje zašto Berkshire Hathaway ima toliko gotovine na svojim računima.
Going back to Q2, if you'll, is we will always have a lot of cash on hand. And when I say cash, I don't mean commercial paper. When 2008 and 2009 financial panic came along, we didn't own anybody's commercial paper. Yeah, we didn't have money market funds. We have treasury bills. And as I may get into a little later, I'll explain to you why. We believe in having cash. And there have been a few times in history, and will be more times in history, where if you don't have it, you don't get to play the next day. I mean, it's just it's like oxygen. it's there all the time, but if it disappears for a few minutes, it's all over. So
Sada, jedan od razloga zašto Buffettova kompanija ima toliko novca na svojim računima je to što sve manje drugih kompanija zadovoljava njihove poprilično konzervativne i striktne investicione kriterijume. Tako da, hajde da poslušamo šta je Buffett imao da kaže o generisanju novih investicionih ideja.
We have so much trouble finding good ideas that we can't afford to ignore any, but they do have to be sizable now. I mean, there really isn't. There isn't a lot of. I love the operation we bought in Germany, and it's just a pleasure to be associated with the people there. I just wish we could add another zero to all the figures. It was a much larger deal. It's not going to have an economic impact on Berkshire, but they love it. They care. You can see it, you can feel it, and that's the kind of business we'd like to have, and we're very happy we've got it in Berkshire. But we can't do it one debt of Louis at a time, and we would never sell an operation like that.
Ono što se meni dopada kod ove cele priče jeste to razmišljanje da se akcije kupuju tako da se nikada ne bi prodale, odnosno da bi bile u našem vlasništvu do kraja sveta, maltene. Ono što je generalno fokus jeste da bude akcija kvalitetna, pa makar mi morali da čekamo i par godina da se evaluacija te akcije spusti na one nivoje po kojima je nama prihvatljivo da tu akciju kupimo. Ono što treba naglasiti jeste kada se ova rečenica ovako formuliše, neki bi možda pomislili da je potrebno da pređemo na market timing strategiju. Tako da, hajde da poslušamo šta je Buffett imao da kaže o ovoj temi.
Hello, Warren and Charlie. It is great to see you both and the wonderful Berkshire managers. Our thanks for everything that you do. My name is Rajiv Agarwal, and I am from New Jersey. My question is on market timing. You have always said that it is impossible to time the markets. Yet, if we look at your track record, you have had amazing timings with some of your key decisions. You got out of the stock markets in 1969-70. You got back in 72, 72, 74 when the markets were really cheap. You did the same thing in 87, 99, 2000. And today, we are sitting on a significant amount of cash when the markets are going down. My question is, how do you time the big market moves so well?
We'd like to offer you a job first.
I will take it.
The interesting thing is, obviously, we haven't the faintest idea what the stock market is going to do when it opens on Monday. We never have had. We have never made, Charlie and I don't think, in all the time we've worked together, and I'll tell you something later on maybe about how learning takes place, but we have never, I don't think we've ever made a decision that where either one of us has either said or been thinking we should buy or sell based on what the market is going to do.
No.
Or for that matter, on what the economy is going to do. We don't know. And the interesting thing is, sometimes I get some credit someplace for the fact that, how wonderful it was that we were optimistic in 2008 and when everybody was down on stocks and all that sort of thing. We spent a big percentage of our net worth at a very dumb time. and I shouldn't say we, it's I. We spent about $15 or $16 billion, which was a lot bigger to us then than it is now. We spent it in the last few weeks. There was a period of 3 or 4 weeks between Wrigley and Goldman Sachs and General. At a terrible time, as it turned out. I mean, I didn't know it was going to be a good time or a bad time, but it was a really dumb time. And I wrote an article for the New York Times and Buy America and and all these things. Well, if I'd had any sense of timing and waited 6 months until, I think the low was in March, and in fact, I think I was on CNBC maybe that day or something, but I totally missed that opportunity. I totally missed, in March of 2020. We have not been good at timing. We've been reasonably good at figuring out when we were getting enough for our money, and we had no idea when we bought anything. Well, we always hoped it would go down for a while so we could buy more, and we hoped even after we were done buying and ran out of money that if it was cheap, the company would keep buying, and in effect taking our interest up. I mean, that's stuff you could learn it in fourth grade, but it's not what's taught in school. And I mean, so never give us any credit. Well, actually, give us all the credit. I mean, go out and tell everybody how smart we are, but we aren't. We haven't ever timed anything. We've never figured out insights into the economy.
Čak i Buffettove investicije mogu biti dokaz da i najbolji investitori ponekada apsolutno promaše tajming svojih investicija i da investiraju u neku kompaniju u skroz pogrešno vreme. Na primer, ja bih danas pričao o kompaniji Nubank, o kojoj sam nekada davno snimao i video, i recimo Buffett je odlučio da kupi akcije ove banke i to je odlučio da kupi 107 miliona akcija po ceni od $7,72 po akciji, a trenutna vrednost akcije je negde oko $3,80, što znači da Buffett trenutno drži nerealizovani gubitak od preko 50% na ovoj akciji. Jednostavno, očigledno je da je Buffett prepoznao kvalitet i da on ovu akciju neće prodavati bez razloga. Kada već pričamo o prodajama, odnosno o vršenju transakcija uopšteno, hajde da vidimo šta je Buffett imao da kaže o stanju u kojem se trenutno nalazi tržište kapitala.
But and trading market, etc. But the market has been extraordinary. Sometimes it's quite investment oriented, kind of like it always you've read about in the books and everything. What capital markets are supposed to do, and you study it in school and all that. And other times it's almost totally a casino, and it's a gambling parlor, and that existed to an extraordinary degree in the last couple of years, encouraged by Wall Street, because the money is in turning over stocks. I mean, people say how wonderful you've done if you bought Berkshire in 1965 or something and held it, but your broker would have starved to death. I mean, it's Wall Street makes money on one way or another, catching the crumbs that fall off a table of capitalism and an incredible economy that nobody could have ever dreamed of a couple hundred years ago, but that they don't make money unless people do things, and that they get a piece of them, and and they make a lot more money when people are gambling than when they're investing. I mean, it's much better to have somebody that's going to trade 20 times a day and get all excited about it, just like pulling the handle on a slot machine. That's who you may not say that you want that person. You'd like the other kind of person too, maybe, but that's where you make the money.
Ovde zaista ne bih imao puno šta da dodam. Očigledno je da finansijskoj industriji najmanje odgovaraju oni investitori koji kupuju ETF-ove u redovnim vremenskim intervalima i ne vrše puno transakcija generalno. Finansijskoj industriji trebaju oni investitori koji će puno kupovati, puno prodavati, jer na svakom od tih koraka nastaju provizije za brokere. I za kraj izdvojio bih još jedan segment, a to je segment u kojem Warren Buffett priča o Bitcoinu.
Well, I shouldn't answer any questions on the subject, but I will. there's all kinds of people watching this that are long Bitcoin, and there's nobody that's short, and nobody wants their windpipe stepped on. And I don't blame them. I don't like people who step on my windpipe. But I would say this, that if the people in this room owned all of the farmland in the United States, and you offered me a 1% interest in it, and you said, for a 1% interest in all the farmland in the United States, pay our group, well, let's see, 10 trillion, pay us this bargain price, $25 billion. I'll write you a check this afternoon, $25 billion, now I own 1% of the farmland. If you tell me you own 1% of the apartment houses in the United States, and you offer me a 1% interest, so I'll have a 1% interest in all the apartment houses in the country, and you want whatever it may be for it, then call it another $25 billion or something. I'll write you a check. It's very simple. Now, if you told me you owned all of the Bitcoin in the world, and you offered it to me for $25, I wouldn't take it, because what would I do with it? I have to sell it back to you one way or another. I mean, maybe I have the same people, but it isn't going to do anything. The apartments are going to produce rental, and the farms are going to produce food. And if I've got all the Bitcoin, I'm back where whatever his name was, who may or may not have existed, was 15 years ago. If I've got it all, he could create a mystery about it. But everybody knows what I'm like. I mean, so if I'm trying to get rid of it, people will say, well, why should I buy some Bitcoin from you? I mean, why don't you call it Buffett coin? Make your own or something. What? Do something. But I'm not going to give you anything for it. And you'd be right, incidentally. But that explains the difference between productive assets and something that depends on the next guy paying you more than the last guy got. Now,
I eto, toliko za danas. Nadam se da ste uživali u savetima Warrena Buffetta i nadam se naravno da ste naučili nešto novo. Ukoliko vam se svideo ovaj video, molim vas da ostavite like i naravno pretplatite se na kanal ukoliko već niste. U svakom slučaju, vidimo se uskoro u nekom novom videu. Pozdrav!